body and grinding down the center.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, this past Thursday in Canada, unbeaten up-and-comer, amateur standout Mary Spencer blitzed through Chris Namus the way I said she would blitz through Chris Namus. The prediction stuck. Ahead of this fight, I told you that if Natasha Jonas, who moved up in weight, several weight classes, from lightweight all the way up to junior middleweight, if she could do that and still have enough pop to stop today's Chris Namus, Mary Spencer, who's naturally bigger than Natasha Jonas, could do a lot better. She's naturally bigger than Natasha and naturally bigger than Chris Namus. For a perspective on just what kind of amateur background Mary Spencer comes from, she has a recorded knockout win over Natasha Jonas, who knocked out Chris Namus. That's right, she knocked out Natasha Jonas in the amateurs, beat Franco Cruz 2 times, 2 out of 3. She beat Alma Ibarra in the amateurs as well. Mary Spencer is the real deal, and this past Thursday, she advanced to a professional record of 6 wins, no losses, no draws, with 4 knockouts. The kind of sharpness and accuracy you see in Mary Spencer takes years of practice, years of training. It's muscle memory. It's second nature for a standout amateur like a Mary Spencer. Mary Spencer, who else? She isn't the youngest unbeaten up-and-comer. She's about 2 or 3 years older than Chris Namus. Mary Spencer is 37. She's a very spry 37 years old. And she's a threat to anyone and everyone holding a world title in the junior middleweight division here today. She has the size, power, and pedigree to unseat any of the active reigning world champions in today's junior middleweight division, of which there are 4. There is Hennerankin holding the WBA title, Natasha Jonas holding the WBO, Patricia Bergult holding the WBC. Patricia very soon is going to be locking horns with former undisputed welterweight champion Cecilia Brækhus. But regardless of who ends up winning their fight, I would favor Mary Spencer to beat them, whether Patricia wins or Cecilia wins. And that leaves only Mary's countrywoman, Marie-Eve Dicaire, Canada's own 2-time IBF junior middleweight champion Marie-Eve Dicaire, who seems to be waiting out the winner of that fight, the winner of Bergult versus Brækhus. For the time being, a world title shot, a world title opportunity may not be available to Mary Spencer, not right now, but what she can do for the immediate future is book another fight. She dispatched Chris Namus in all of 1 round, just 1 round, and there's plenty of time and plenty of opportunity to get in another 2 to 3 fights in this year. I wouldn't mind seeing her against Lolita Musea, Marianne Alborg, or the French woman that just beat her, Priscilla Peterle. Unbeaten Priscilla Peterle. For the time being, if all the active reigning world champions in today's junior middleweight division are otherwise preoccupied, Hannah Rankin's caught up between a potential Terry Harper fight or a potential Natasha Jonas. Patricia Bergult's all tied up with Cecilia Brækhus, and the winner of that fight is all tied up with a potential Marie-Eve Dicaire unification match. If the road to a world title is murky at this time, it's not quite clear which world title at what point will become available for Marie Spencer to fight for. The best thing they can do for her is keep her sharp, keep her busy, get her more professional experience, as she is dispatching these opponents quite quickly, and she's going to need more rounds in the bank. Those early knockouts can be a blessing and a curse. A blessing in the form of the buzz that they create, highlight real knockouts, who doesn't love them, but a curse in the sense that you're going to need more experience, you're going to need more rounds in the bank for those opponents that don't fall down right away as soon as you touch them. You see what ended up happening to Edgar Berlanga? He got too many of those early knockouts, and now look at him. A halfway decent opponent makes him look limited, lost in translation, lost in the sauce. Thankfully, Mary Spencer comes from a more decorated amateur background than the likes of an Edgar Berlanga. But for the time being, if they can't get her a title fight, what they can do is get her more experience. In the next 12 months, I could see Mary Spencer becoming a world champion. In another 12, she could very well become this division's undisputed champion. She's got what it takes to win all the belts from all the belt holders, and I don't say that lightly. Congratulations to her for advancing to a professional record of 6 wins, no losses, no draws, with 4 knockouts. In men's super flyweight news, what was otherwise a less political weight class than some other weight classes, there's a very sordid affair involving the reigning WBA and WBC franchise champion Juan Francisco Estrada. Francisco A. Salazar. A few days ago, he posted a tweet that reads, "Promoter Fernando Beltran told me last week, Juan Francisco Estrada will indeed fight Joshua Franco in August, somewhere in the United States." Now, Chava ESPN. He's reporting August 20th as the date when Estrada and Franco will face off in a 115-pound clash.
For those not already aware, Joshua Franco is Juan's mandatory challenger.
It's his mandatory challenger by way of the WBA. Some weeks ago, per a tweet from Jake Donovan, it was announced that Golden Boy Promotions obtained the rights to Estrada versus Franco, the WBA mandated title consolidation bout. Golden Boy submitted $120,000 as the lone bidder, minimum accepted amount. Working dates are June 11th or June 16th. Now, obviously
they came off of those dates because now they're looking to do that fight in August.
The mandated title fight with Joshua Franco. And the problem is that Juan Francisco Estrada, he seems to have 2 mandatory challengers, if you can believe this. He's got Joshua Franco, who we just talked about.
Right.
But the WBC have gone as far as installing Chocolatito, Roman Gonzalez, as his mandatory by way of the WBC.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense because he doesn't have the WBC's world title.
He's the WBC's franchise champion, and last I checked, WBC franchise champions aren't supposed to have mandatory challengers. Juan's initial plan was to take care of Joshua Franco and then, God willing, in November or December, the trilogy with Chocolatito. Juan said he wants to unify all the alphabet titles.
Solid plan.
Joshua Franco in the summer, and if Juan wins, he moves into a Chocolatito trilogy in the fall or winter months.
It was a solid plan at first, but now there are conflicting reports.
Now the story is, Juan Estrada versus Roman Gonzalez 3 is reportedly being targeted for September or October. It's claimed Estrada won't be fighting Joshua Franco next and will instead head straight into the third fight with Chocolatito.
It appears the WBC made Roman Juan's mandatory.
Boxing scribe Rob Tebbett stated, "I spoke to Mauricio Suleiman today, who told me in no uncertain terms that Juan Francisco Estrada will be stripped of the WBC franchise title should he proceed with the fight against Joshua Franco."
And Eddie Hearn confirmed it.
By way of Steve Kim, who said, "So Eddie Hearn tells me that as it relates to Chocolatito, the WBC has mandated he face Juan Francisco Estrada, while the WBA has ordered him to fight Joshua Franco. So, some decisions have to be made by them." Now, why the WBC decided to take it upon themselves to order a fight between Juan and Roman, your guess is as good as mine.
I got a couple of questions about this entire situation, I do.
Golden Boy Promotions was the lone bidder for the Joshua Franco versus Juan Francisco Estrada purse bid. Matchroom didn't bid on the fight.
Is it because Juan Francisco Estrada's not a matchroom fighter anymore?
Is he not with them anymore? Or is he still with them, but they figured they'll drop the WBA title so that they can go into the bigger fight, the Chocolatito fight, instead?
Because what we know is they didn't bother to place a bid for that fight.
They didn't want it. Is it because Juan's not with them anymore? Or is it because it was their plan to do that trilogy, regardless of the WBA's order?
That needs some reconciliation.
I'd say it does. In the past, traditionally, divisions like the flyweight division and the super flyweight division, these are not divisions that in the past were polluted with the bureaucratic red tape and the politics of boxing. But once major promotional outfits like Matchroom, like Golden Boy, once they started having ponies in that super flyweight show, ponies that were actually fighting on major platforms, getting more airtime than they used to here in the United States, you see how the politics start to seep into it.
The lower weights are not characteristically political divisions.
But this is very much a political situation. You have both the WBC and the WBA ordering the same guy to fight 2 different mandatory challengers. Those are sister organizations.
Surely the WBC was aware of the WBA's order.
As the WBA's order for Juan Francisco Estrada to take on Joshua Franco, that order came down first. That order came down many weeks ago.
So why'd they decide to make Roman as mandatory if they knew he was already under orders to fight somebody else?
If they knew he was already under orders to fight Joshua Franco by way of the WBA, what's going on here? Didn't they have like a bruncheon or a mixer where they decided they were going to start working together?
I thought that all the presidents of all the alphabet organizations convened.
Whereas now they seem to be working against each other, as they are the ones that created this mess. The WBC was fully aware that Juan Francisco Estrada was already under orders by way of the WBA. So why would they all of a sudden decide to change their own rules? Now franchise champions have mandatories? When did that start?
In March of last year, Juan Francisco Estrada was elevated to WBC franchise champion.
He's been their franchise champion for a little over a year now, and it was my understanding, at least up until recently, that franchise champions don't have mandatories, only WBC world champions.
I don't know what Juan's going to decide to do because the bigger money fight is the Chocolatito fight.
Though if it ends up happening in the fall or winter months, it will have been well over a year's time since their initial meeting and since Juan Francisco Estrada's last fight. Chocolatito saw action this year. Juan didn't.
You don't come off the couch or a long layoff to fight somebody like Chocolatito.
That's why the Joshua Franco fight was a bit of a silver lining and a saving grace for Juan. At least he'd get a chance to get some rounds in the bank before he goes back into the fire with Chocolatito. The way it breaks down, I don't know what's going to happen. Is he going to vacate the WBA title and go straight into a Chocolatito fight?
We'll see.
Finally, yesterday they held the press conference for the upcoming trilogy between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. Canelo says, Golovkin fought D-class opponents, waiting for a last payday. I'm going to retire him. Retire him. Canelo Alvarez was visibly vexed with Gennady Golovkin. I always got the sense that Golovkin, as an opponent, he annoyed Canelo Alvarez.
Canelo, who said, I was busy fighting the best fighters out there.
That's why it took 4 years for the third fight. Of course, he's waited around and not done anything but wait for me. He wants his last payday. Look at my fights after Triple G and look at his fights, Alvarez told BoxingScene.com and other reporters. He's not talking shit anymore because he has me in front of him now. Call the lion when you see he's coming, and I'm coming. He's always pretending to be a nice guy, but he's an asshole. He's an asshole.
Not a good person.
It's fucking not. It is what it is. I don't pretend to be another person. This is the way I am. I vaguely recall Golovkin asking once before this fight was made official, why the fight took so long to make. What was Alvarez waiting for?
He asked that same question yesterday.
Canelo Alvarez had an answer. He said he's always saying I'm scared and running away when I'm fighting the best guys out there and he's fighting D-class fighters. He's talking a lot of things about me and that's why it's personal.
Gennady Golovkin wasn't a party to Canelo's hostility.
At least he didn't feed into it. He kept a steely reserve about him.
Oh, it is true. Since their second fight, Canelo Alvarez has been fighting better fighters than Gennady.
Alvarez is adamant that their meeting will be the last time Golovkin steps foot into the squared circle. It will be so sweet to push him off the proverbial cliff at the end of his career. Of course, I want to retire him. I will be the last guy he ever fights, Alvarez said with an ear-to-ear smile and arms folded. Alvarez added that it gives him extra satisfaction knowing that he made Golovkin wait 4 years for a shot at revenge, all while doing so on his own terms, in his desired weight class. It makes me feel good, Alvarez said, with a wide grin. I don't know why he's surprised why this fight is personal for me. He knows what I think about him. I hope he's taking it personal, too. He's gonna need it.
When the Golovkin versus Canelo fight first became a hot topic, when it first became a thing,
I believe that period of time, that was a sore spot for Canelo. Public opinion of Canelo Alvarez, it wasn't then what it is now.
a lot of people, myself included, felt that he was avoiding a fight with Gennady Golovkin.
I mean, he still had fans. He still had supporters. Hell, he had fans and supporters in the Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight. That's why Floyd gave that guy a shot in the first place.
And he had fans during that period that the Golovkin fight was a hot topic.
He still had a lot of fans. That's why the fight was such a big commercial success. But he also had a lot of critics. In fact, he had more people criticizing him then than he does now.
If you can believe that.
And I think to some degree, that's why he's always annoyed with the subject of Gennady Golovkin. I think to some degree, that's why this is personal for him.
Whereas Gennady was more reserved.
Gennady Golovkin, who said, I'm a big fan of boxing. From that standpoint, I respect him a lot. As far as him taking this personal, I don't understand it. After the second fight, we shook hands, and everything seemed fine. If he decides that it's now personal, that's on him.
I think it's always been personal between these two. Even on Golovkin's Golovkin's end of it.
After the first fight that a lot of people feel Gennady Golovkin won, I'm sure he took it personal that he wasn't awarded the decision.
Still maintained a steely reserve, though, except for one brief moment.
A scary moment, according to Marcos Villegas, a moment where he says, Gennady Golovkin didn't know Canelo called him an asshole. He gave me this death look when I said Canelo said that. I told him, don't kill the messenger, bro. It wasn't me. He feels Canelo isn't confident in this fight.
No, I don't think Canelo's confidence is completely sapped as a result of losing to Dmitry Bivol.
I think he's frustrated. I think he's angry, but I don't think he's lacking any confidence. What I do think he's looking to do is make a statement, get back in the winner's bracket, and he means to do that by taking out Gennady Golovkin. You almost feel sorry for the old guy, though not too sorry, because he's going to make a lot of fucking money. He just made a lot of money with Ryota Murata in Japan, and he's about to make even more money with Canelo for a third time, who he already made a lot of money with the first two times.
He made an obscene amount of money fighting Steve Rolls and Sergey Devianchenko.
Gennady Golovkin has proven himself to be a shrewd businessman over time, making a lot of wise business decisions, jumping into bet with DAZN being one of them, where he made an obscene amount of money for a lot of soft opponents, a lot of soft competition. And here he is with a third Canelo Alvarez payday in front of him.
Canelo's not completely wrong, you know. He has been fighting better people than Golovkin's been fighting.
When you compare who both of these boys have been fighting since they last fought each other, Canelo Alvarez has been fighting better fighters than Gennady has. He unified an entire weight class, while Gennady was on easy street with the likes of Steve Rolls and Camille Zeremata.
The best two guys Gennady Golovkin's fought since that last Canelo Alvarez fight is Sergey Devianchenko
and Ryota Murata. Gennady's last fight, what was a middleweight unification match, that pales in comparison to Canelo Alvarez's recent undisputed run upstairs in the super middleweight division. I mean, Canelo Alvarez was quite literally taking on unbeaten champion after unbeaten champion after unbeaten champion, all of which are naturally bigger guys than Canelo Alvarez is, and he didn't stop there. He decided to go back up to light heavyweight to see if he could win a second title in that division, in that weight class. I mean, even the faded version of Sergey that Canelo fought, that's still a better guy than the guys Gennady's been fighting. And maybe that's what burns up Canelo Alvarez so much about Gennady, that in a lot of ways he's been on easy street, and it does feel like he's been on easy street this whole time, waiting for that Canelo payday to come back around. And it's here, but Canelo Alvarez is going to make him
He's going to make him earn every red cent.
Every dollar. Canelo seems annoyed with Gennady, and he's going to show him just how annoyed he is.